All right, let's dive in. Today, we're really unpacking something incredibly personal, I think, and
Okay.
universal, our emotions. Have you ever found yourself feeling like, your feelings are completely running the show, almost out of your control? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. And this deep dive is really for you. We're drawing mostly from Thibaut Meurisse's Master Your Emotions. Also some really great insights from The Art of Emotional Mastery.
Mm,
Our mission, basically,
yeah.
to demystify what emotions actually are, where they come from, and maybe most importantly, how we can use them. Use them as powerful tools for personal growth instead of just letting them dictate our lives. Think of it like the instruction manual for your mind, the one you never got.
Yeah, and what's really striking in these books is this message that, okay, emotions feel overwhelming, sure, but we actually have far more agency, more control over them than we tend to realize. They aren't just random noise, they're signals, important signals. And once we start to understand those signals, we can really begin to, master our internal landscape.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then. What are emotions, really, at their core? Because our sources, they immediately challenge a really common idea, that our brains are designed to make us happy. Turns out it's kind of the opposite.
It really is. Your brain's primary job, its absolute number one priority, is survival, not happiness. This is wiring from our ancestors, and it means we have this natural bias towards negativity. It kept us safe back then. Take fear of rejection. Once, that was crucial for staying in the tribe, right, for
Yeah.
survival. Now, it translates into feeling intense emotional pain over, say, one single negative comment online. Even if you have hundreds of positive ones, it's an old mechanism in a very new world.
Right, that mismatch. Ancient wiring, modern world. That's where it gets really interesting. And this survival thing, it also plays tricks with our happiness, especially around dopamine. Dopamine gives us those hits of well-being, but it's so easily artificially stimulated, like social media notifications. And that can create these addictions almost that hijack our more natural state of happiness.
Yeah.
I mean, you see those extreme cases like Lee Sung-Soop, the gamer who tragically died after that. And you thought,
It really makes you question things. Are we just mistaking these quick, temporary dopamine shots for real happiness? And this concept of hedonic adaptation really speaks to that. It basically says our minds get used to new situations incredibly quickly. That new car, the promotion, buzz fades fast. There was this fascinating study back in 1978, lottery winners and paraplegics, a year after these huge life changes. Both groups, surprisingly, were pretty much back to their original happiness levels. It powerfully shows that external stuff, it only accounts for about 10% of our happiness. Internal factors, that's 40%, and genetics is the other 50%.
wow, only 10% external. So the big takeaway here is, despite the negativity bias, despite getting used to good things, that 40% we do control is huge. And it's not just about what happens to you, it's how you frame it. Your attitude really is the driver, according to these sources, which brings us neatly to another major player, the ego. We usually think ego just means pride, right? But these books unpack it much more broadly. What's the difference?
Yeah, the deeper view is that the ego is basically the self-identity we've built up from our thoughts or interpretations, and it identifies with so much stuff. Physical things, our bodies, jobs, relationships, our beliefs, and get this, even our problems. It identifies with our problems. This intense identification, that's the root cause of a lot of negative emotion. When our ego, our story about ourselves gets challenged, that's when we feel upset or defensive.
Huh. So if the ego identifies with our problems, letting go of a problem means letting go of part of our identity.
That's what,
No.
yeah, that's a big thought. And talking about emotions themselves, the sources are crystal clear. Emotions are transient, they don't last. Absolutely, like clouds passing across the sun. They come, they go. The suffering, you see, it usually isn't from the emotion itself. It's from how we interpret it, how we identify with it, cling to it. And actually, negative emotions can be really useful messengers, like physical pain. They signal that something inside needs attention, or maybe we need to change perspective. Think about people like Elon Musk or Abraham Lincoln. Both dealt with severe depression, right? But they moved through it. It shows these states aren't permanent.
Okay, but here's the tricky part, and I've definitely felt this. Emotions act like magnets, don't they? When you're feeling negative, it's just so easy to retract more negative thoughts. It becomes a cycle. Eckhart Tolle talks about this. I remember dealing with some chronic knee pain, and suddenly it wasn't just about the knee. It triggered this whole cascade of negative thoughts about work, about life. It just spread. It really showed that magnetic power. The key, I guess, was trying to compartmentalize, stop it from tainting everything.
That's a really relatable example. And it makes you wonder, if emotions are transient, why do we hold on to them so fiercely sometimes? Often it's this mental suffering, right? Dwelling on the past, worrying about the future. Dale Carnegie pointed out how much energy that consumes. It's exhausting. And here's a provocative thought from the sources. From a purely objective view, many problems don't really exist outside our heads. They need our attention, our interpretation, our label. That's what makes them a problem.
Okay, moving on from what emotions are. Let's unpack what directly influences them. Because, yeah, some reactions are instant, but a lot of our emotional state is actually self-created. It's influenced by all sorts of factors in our lives.
Exactly. And one huge one, often just brushed aside, is sleep. Simple sleep. That RAND Europe study you mentioned, it showed lack of sleep hits, mood, concentration, even increases mortality risk. But here's something else. Sleep deprivation actually makes it harder for us to enjoy positive experiences. You're literally less capable of feeling joy when you're tired. Simple things help, though, like a pitch-black bedroom, avoiding screens before bed. That PNAS study showed screens reduce melatonin, mess with deep sleep. Basic stuff, but powerful.
And this one is just mind-blowing, really. Your body can literally change your mind. Like Amy Cuddy's research on power posing. Standing confidently for just 2 minutes. It actually increases testosterone, lowers cortisol, makes you feel more confident. And the opposite is true, too. David K. Reynolds did this experiment where he simulated depression. Just by slouching, repeating negative phrases, he actually started feeling genuinely depressed.
It just highlights that deep two-way street between physiology and emotion. It's profound. And exercise falls right into this category, too. It's not just physical, it's a potent antidepressant. Studies from Duke University found it's as effective as medication for mild to moderate depression. Even just a 30-minute walk 5 times a week. Huge benefits. Can even add years to your life, apparently.
Okay, let's unpack this other massive idea. Your thoughts literally create your reality, which means theoretically we can steer our thoughts towards what we want, not just dwell on what we fear. This is where practices like meditation come in, right? Helping tame that monkey mind.
Yeah.
Creating a bit of distance from our thoughts, not getting swept away.
Precisely. And visualization is super powerful here because, well, your subconscious doesn't really know the difference between real and vividly imagined. So by consistently picturing desired outcomes, feeling those positive feelings in advance, you're conditioning your mind. You're essentially pre-paving positive emotional responses. And this links directly to the power of our words, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Words, thoughts, behaviors are all tangled up. Just switching from I'll try to I will, you can feel the difference in confidence. That's the core of positive affirmations, isn't it? And when you combine them with visualization, maybe even get your body involved.
Yeah.
Like Tony Robbins does with his incantations. That mix can be incredibly potent for shifting your state quickly.
And another one, often totally overlooked, breathing. Just how we breathe. Proper breathing techniques can massively calm anxiety. The book Breath Walk talks about how even just one slow breath cycle per minute can optimize your brain, reduce worry. And other techniques like faster breathing can boost alertness and energy. We have direct control here.
Your environment, too. It plays such a huge role, doesn't it? Often subtly. Like a really messy desk, spending way too much time doom scrolling on social media. These things can actively drain your motivation, your happiness. It's like garbage in, garbage out for the mind. Just cleaning your physical space or cutting back on negative inputs can sometimes give you an immediate lift.
Absolutely. And who hasn't felt that with music? If the right song comes on, it can instantly relax you or pump you up or make you feel grateful. Studies back this up. Positive music boosts mood. And interestingly, the specific genre isn't as important as whether you like it, which means you can actually curate playlists intentionally, condition your mind for certain states.
Yeah.
Like Christopher Berglund, the endurance athlete, uses music specifically to stay motivated during intense training.
Okay, so we've kind of covered the why and the what. Now let's get practical. The how-to. The sources give us this really neat formula for how emotions form. Interpretation plus identification plus repetition equals strong emotion.
Yeah, it seems simple, but it's incredibly revealing, that equation. It shows how these self-created negative emotions happen. A random thought pops up, okay? And we identify with it. That's me, that's true. And then we repeat it, consciously or unconsciously. We dwell on it. So the more you focus on, say, money worries, the stronger that anxiety gets. You're building the emotion through that cycle.
Which leads straight to the need to change your interpretation, that first part of the formula. Because the same event, like getting stuck in traffic, can be a total nightmare or just a thing that happened. It all depends on the meaning you give it. And those meanings come from our underlying assumptions, like believing traffic jams shouldn't happen or I must always be on time.
Exactly. So to change the emotion, you have to dig down and revise the assumption. Back to the traffic jam. Is the traffic itself stressful? Or is it your belief about the traffic that creates the stress? Once you see that distinction, you can consciously reframe it. Choose a different, maybe more useful interpretation. Okay, more podcast time.
And maybe one of the most powerful practices they talk about is actively letting go of emotions. Because they say emotions are just energy in motion,
Yeah.
emotion, but we often bottle them up, repress them, they sink down, become part of our identity almost.
Right, so the big question is, how do you actually do that? Let go. The Sedona method offers a really practical 5-step process. First, you focus on the feeling, really feel it. Then you ask yourself gently, could I let this feeling go? Or allow it, or welcome it? Then, honestly, would I let it go? Yes or no is fine, then when? And the answer is always now. Nah. And you just repeat that cycle until the feeling starts to loosen its grip. The key insight is remembering. You are not the emotion, you're the awareness behind the emotion, like the sun behind the clouds.
Building on that idea of being the witness, we can also actively condition our minds for more positive emotions. It reminds me of that quote, often attributed to Buddha or Emerson, what you think, you become. Our thoughts spark emotions, and those emotions drive our actions. It's a chain reaction.
So by deliberately, consistently depositing positive thoughts through choosing better interpretations, identifying with positive states, repeating positive ideas, you're literally strengthening those neural pathways. You're making positivity the easier, more default option for your brain. Practical ways to do this: daily gratitude, visualizing what you want, envisioning yourself succeeding to build confidence, tracking your wins, even small ones, to boost self-esteem.
And here's one that's huge for getting things done.
Right.
Decisiveness. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule is mentioned, just counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and moving on an impulse or idea. It's such a simple way to break through that hesitation, that procrastination, and just build momentum.
Absolutely. And sometimes, positive thinking just isn't enough on its own. You need to change your behavior. Worried about that presentation, stop thinking, start rehearsing. That changes the feeling. Resenting a friend, dwelling won't help. Having the actual conversation might. Sometimes the best approach is just do the thing you're avoiding. Often the negative feelings just fade once you're in action and detached from the outcome.
And don't forget changing your environment again. That comes up too. If scrolling Facebook makes you miserable, maybe spend less time scrolling Facebook. Seems obvious, but we don't always do it. If certain people drain you, figure out how to adjust those interactions. Protect your energy. Even just tidying your workspace can give you that little mental boost.
Yeah, it's a mix of short-term fixes and long-term strategies, isn't it? Distracting yourself can work short-term. Moving your body is huge. Writing worries down gets them out of your head. And of course, for ongoing serious issues, seeking professional help is key. But the overall theme is consistent action, taking steps, small or large, that support your emotional well-being.
So, okay, we've covered a lot. What's the big picture here? What does this all mean for us? It feels like the main message is that our emotions aren't enemies to be defeated. They're more like guides. They tell us when our view of reality might be skewed, or when something in our life genuinely needs to change.
That's a great way to put it. It brings up that model of being above the line or below the line from Deathmer and Chapman. When you're above the line, you're curious, open, taking responsibility, you feel expansive. Below the line, you're defensive, closed off, blaming, stuck in your opinions, contracted. Just noticing which state you're in is a massive step in self-awareness. Similar idea with the fear versus love model. Are your actions coming from a place of trying to get something, fear, or trying to give or connect, love?
Exactly. And to really leverage that guidance, we need to get good at noticing our patterns. One suggestion is to keep an emotion journal for maybe a week. Just note down what you felt, what triggered it, what your interpretation was, and how you got back to neutral. You could uncover some really valuable, maybe surprising insights about your own tendencies.
Yeah, that kind of awareness can completely change how you handle specific, difficult emotions. Like that feeling of not being good enough. It's so common. Even super successful people like Jodie Foster or Meryl Streep talk about feeling it. Imposter syndrome. Often it's tied to low self-esteem. We filter out the good stuff, magnify the mistakes.
So how do you grow from that feeling? You identify the triggers, like you
Yeah.
said, and then actively counter-program by tracking your wins. Keep a win log or put notes in a self-esteem jar. And learn to actually accept compliments. Just say thank you. Don't brush them off. That's a small but powerful act.
And connecting this back to the ego, defensiveness often comes from protecting that ego or protecting a core belief we hold. If criticism really stings, chances are there's either a grain of truth you don't want to face, or it's hitting a deeply held belief about yourself. Asking yourself, okay, what am I trying to protect here? Or could I maybe let go of this belief? That can be incredibly freeing.
It's the same with stress and worry, isn't it? They feel external, like the situation is stressful. But the sources argue it's mostly internal. It's our interpretation again. Reframing that traffic jam as bonus audiobook time. That's taking responsibility for your emotional response. And worry, which is usually about the past we can't change or the future we can't control. Sorting worries into can control, some control, no control helps you see what's worth your energy and what you just need to let go of.
Which raises another point. Why do we care so much what other people think? The sources offer this liberating idea: you are the most important person in the world, to yourself. And honestly, most other people are too busy worrying about themselves to be thinking that much about you. Trying to be liked by everyone just makes you bland. Let your actual personality out. What others think, it's really none of your business.
That feels directly linked to resentment, too.
Yeah.
That quote about resentment being like drinking poison and hoping it kills your enemies. Wow. Resentment builds up from those misinterpretations, identifying with the story of being wronged, replaying it over and over. So to grow past it, you need to challenge your interpretation, maybe confront the situation if needed, but ultimately forgive and forget. Not for them necessarily, but for your own peace.
And then you have jealousy. That often comes from feeling not good enough or a scarcity mindset, like someone else's success takes away from yours. But here's a fascinating twist. Jealousy can be a compass. Susan Cain, author of Quiet, she realized she wanted to be a writer, not a lawyer, because she felt jealous of writers, not successful lawyers. It pointed her towards her true desire. It can also nudge us away from competition towards cooperation. Success isn't a limited pie.
And finally, depression. When it's not clinical, the sources suggest it can be a sign you've kind of lost touch with reality, gotten totally lost in your head. That David K. Reynolds experiment, creating his own depression, showed how active the process can be, which means we also have the power to actively climb out. Sometimes even feeling a bit of anger can be a step from total apathy. The key seems to be reconnecting with the body exercise, meditation, getting out of the endless thought loops.
Fear and discomfort, too, they're not stop signs, they're growth signals.
No.
Our brain wants safety, the comfort zone. But, Benjamin Franklin's quote, "Some people die at 25 and aren't buried until 75. Staying too comfortable. Courage isn't not feeling fear, it's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Facing small fears regularly builds that muscle, expands what you're capable of."
And procrastination, which is mostly emotional, right? Usually rooted in fear of failure, fear of judgment, sometimes just inertia. The mind is great at making excuses. The sources offer this whole 16-step process to tackle it. Things like clarifying your why, starting super small, getting accountability, and using that 5-second rule again just to blast through the initial resistance. Just start.
Lastly, that feeling of low motivation. It's usually not that you are unmotivated, it's that you lack a compelling vision, or maybe your goals aren't aligned with who you really are. So identify your strengths, understand your personality type, connect deeply with the emotional reason why you want something. That can reignite the fire. And crucially, remember, motivation ebbs and flows. It's not constant. That's why building self-discipline and also self-compassion is so important for the long haul.
Wow. Okay. This has been a really, really insightful deep dive into mastering emotions. The big takeaway for me is that emotions aren't random. They aren't the enemy. They're messengers. Powerful feedback.
Exactly. You are not sad. You are not angry. You are not jealous. You are the one witnessing sadness, anger, jealousy. Those feelings come and go. You remain. And the real power, the mastery, isn't about never feeling bad things. It's about learning to choose your response intentionally, wisely.
So here's maybe a final thought for you listening right now to mull over. If your emotions really are messengers, what message might they be trying to deliver to you today? And what's just one tiny intentional action you could take, maybe even right now, to acknowledge that message and shift your internal landscape even just a little bit